All right. Good morning, afternoon, everyone, depending on if you're watching this from Arizona or elsewhere. If you're actually in Arizona watching this right now, I am quite jealous of you. I am working remote and currently covered in about 8 inches of snow. It's negative 15-degree wind chill, and my garage is frozen shut. So I literally could not leave if I wanted to. So that's super duper fun. Anyway, to our research topics. So I'm going to give you an overview of some feedback, why some wouldn't work with some encouragement of it's not that they were bad, it's just we couldn't do it for this class, an overview of the ones that are a contender, and how the voting and sign up is going to work. So these are actual research projects we're going to do this semester. So to start off with a little bit of housekeeping, as I had mentioned in the intro to the course, there are some things that the college IRB simply will not approve us to research. We can't ask people about childhood trauma or if they were abused as a kid. It'd be really difficult to do a study about people's parenting practices because keep in mind that our population for this research study is students here at GCC. And we already have a hard enough time recruiting classes to participate. So if we were trying to narrow it down of you have to be a parent because we're wanting a study specifically on parenting practices, my concern is we would not get enough participants to do a good statistical analysis. So anything that's specifically about somebody's parenting practices, we can't do. We also can't do studies on children because, again, our recruitment pool is college students at GCC. So we can't do studies on kids or on your kids' development or things like that. So anything involving parenting or children, I automatically had to exclude just because there's no way for us to do it. We also can't do actual in-class experiments. So we can't, because again, you all are taking this class online for a reason. Some of you are not on campus. Hopefully you're not buried under snow like I am. But so we can't actually set up a situation of saying we're going to go in class and play music or have a video on in the background and see how that impacts students. Again, simply because if only one person is in your group is actually located local on campus, that puts a lot of disproportionate weight on them to be the sole person who has to be orchestrating that sort of thing. If we were taking the class in person, we can get away with doing stuff like that, but online is just kind of a different game. We cannot ask people, and I'm saying this as a precursor to talk about how we can work around this one as we get into some of these, because a lot of you proposed topics adjacent to this. We cannot ask people if they've ever been diagnosed with depression or diagnosed with a mental health disorder, and we can't give them an actual depression screening. However, we can ask things that tend to relate to depression symptomology. So we can ask, like, do you ever have a hard time sleeping? Do you ever feel a loss of joy? Do you ever feel overwhelmed? So we can ask questions that are adjacent to it. We just can't give an actual depression screening, and we cannot ask if you've ever been diagnosed with depression, if you're on antidepressants or you've ever taken it. Again, IRB just won't approve that. And the last thing, and I'm iffy on this. If you want to do this, I will absolutely advocate to the department chair for you to allow it, because I personally think it would be interesting and I'm not opposed to it. I just don't know if it'd be approved. Someone had submitted a topic related to everything that's going on right now with ICE. And obviously, living in Arizona, that is a very valid thing to research because a lot of us there, a lot of our families there would be affected by it, or even just the perception, since Phoenix is a more multicultural area, the idea of, I know my status, I know my family's status. However, on the surface, it might appear that my family is immigrant or whatever. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just don't know if the department would approve something that's specifically political, because I think the idea that was proposed was asking if this increased stuff that's going on with ICE in the news and with more ICE having presence in the community is affecting like rates of anxiety and nervousness and community participation and stuff. I love the idea. I think it's great. If there's enough people that want to do it, send me an email. If there's enough interest to it, I will forward it to the department chair and advocate for it. I just don't know if it'd be approved. But if I get at least 4 people that email me that they want to do that topic, I will make your case for you and see how it goes. I don't mind doing that. I'm not putting it on the official list, but if you want to do that topic, email me and I will see if I can make that happen, because I would love to see that. So the topics that we are going to vote on. So here's how this is going to work. We are going to, there were 12 topics that I really liked that I think have a ton of potential. We're going to have 5 groups for research projects in this class. We have 23 students. So that means each group will have 4 or 5 students. So I'm going to explain these 12. I'm going to put them all up for a vote. You're going to vote on your top 3 choices. And the reason for top 3 is hopefully if the one that you love doesn't get it, at least one of your backup choices does. Or if you're not if it does get it, but you're not one of the first people to sign up, there's still a group that you'd be interested in. So I'm going to open up a voting. You're going to vote by Wednesday at midnight. And then Thursday, I'll open the actual group sign up when I see what our groups are. So here are the 12 groups, or the 12 options for groups. The first one is sleep habits and stress levels, mental health. That's always a good one. That's really easy to ask people about their sleep habits. It's in a very low pressure way. So we've done sleep habit studies in this class before. People tend to be pretty open to admit yeah, I tend to go to bed too late, or I have to get up really early, or I get distracted by social media because I lay in bed and scroll, whatever it might be. So that's always an interesting topic. Number 2, there were a couple that were related to social media. Well, there were actually a lot, but I think they break up into 2 distinct points. The first one was things about social media relating to mental or emotional health in some way. So social media and identity development, social comparison, self-esteem, loneliness, anxiety. I collapsed all those into one option. So social media and mental health. And then your group can kind of determine which of those topics you'd like to look at. And I'm happy to chat with you, brainstorm guidance, those sorts of things. The other thing that related to social media usage, and this is going to be your third option, is social media usage and your ability to identify writing mistakes. I think that would be really interesting, because using kind of poor grammar, typos, spelling, all that is pretty common on social media. So if that's the main thing that you're reading is scrolling and reading, does that deaden your sensitivity to being able to recognize like grammatical errors, punctuation, spelling, writing errors? I'm still thinking through how we would actually do that, but I think it's an interesting idea. So if it gets enough votes, I will absolutely brainstorm with you on how to bring about that as a survey. The next one, 2 people came up with ideas related to this, and I would love to see this get enough votes to happen. I think this would be a fascinating one. The use of AI, so either AI art or AI voices in content, and the perception of that content, like the trustworthiness, the accuracy, how engaging you find it. My partner is a big gamer and gets really annoyed with the ads for new games that are clearly AI voices or AI generated art based on the art of the game, but aren't actually scenes from the game. And even with like the YouTube videos and stuff that my kids watch, the off-puttingness of some of the AI voices. So I think this would be a really interesting one. There could be links to non-AI content and then AI content, and ask their perception of them and compare those. I think that would be a really, really interesting study. All right, the 5th topic is your level of comfort with your level of comfort and confidence with public speaking, and then your academics. So kind of public speaking as a metric, if that's related to other academic skills and academic success, GPA, I think that'd be really interesting. The next one is time spent outdoors and your mood, your anxiety levels. Similar ones of that have been done in this course, and that's always really interesting. There's one later on, which I'll actually just move that to my list and talk about it right now, because we could maybe collapse these 2 together, which was exercise. I'm going through my list. I'm trying to make sure I have this in order. The other one was exercise and mood, emotional health, life satisfaction. Also really common. We've done that study, something related to that, I think every semester in this class. But those 2 could very much be collapsed. If we're doing exercise and physical activity, we could ask then a follow-up about how much of that physical activity is spent outdoors, and maybe have some room for comparison of physical activity outdoors versus just leisure time outdoors, right? Like I'm sitting on my porch reading versus, I think that there'd be options both ways. I will list it as two separate topics to vote on, but if only one of them gets it, then there would be room to collapse it if everyone in the group was in agreement on that. The next one is music and focus study habits. This one was one that was initially proposed as the idea of, does listening to music in class impact academic performance, which, as I mentioned, we can't actually go into classrooms and do it as an experiment with just how the class is structured online. But we definitely could ask about listening to music and study habits focus. Is there a difference in genre? Is there a difference in what type of tasks you prefer to listen to music to during, and things of that nature? Where am I on my list here? Okay, number 9 is time spent at home and happiness or mental health. These next 3, again, kind of like the exercise and time outdoors, we could either leave them separate or collapse them. We'll see how the votes go. Time spent at home and happiness and mental health. This one is really interesting because we could differentiate, right? I'm spending time at home because I want to. I'm a homebody. I want to be here. Don't make me leave. Versus time spent at home as, I don't want to be stuck at home, but I don't really have a good social circle to go do things with. So I would prefer to go out, but my time spent at home is more of an indicator of loneliness. So there's definitely room to kind of compare voluntary versus involuntary spending time at home, and also to build in how much of that time spent at home is leisure. Because if I'm spending a ton of time at home because I'm an online student who also works online, so yes, I'm at home, but I'm either doing work or school 10 to 12 hours a day, versus somebody who's at home with a lot of leisure time, there could be a significant difference in that too. So lots of comparisons we could do there, which leads kind of into the next 2. One being burnout and the amount of leisure time or relaxation that people have. So those 2 could very easily go together. And then also the relationship between intentionally engaging in self-reflective activities like journaling, meditation, stuff like that, and actions taken. So goal setting, life changes, habit changes, things of that nature. So again, those 3, I could see those being rolled together. We'll see how the votes go. And then the last one is time spent with friends. And somebody had given a follow-up about, you could also include time spent with a romantic partner, but time spent with friends, social circle, and your academics. And this one is interesting because we could kind of pierce out not just the quantity time spent with friends, but we could also kind of piece out what you're doing with friends, because spending time with friends as a way to feel social support, or my best friend and I go sit at the coffee shop together and study, or I go over to my partner's house and they cook me dinner while I'm sitting and studying, so we're spending time together. But that sort of thing would be very different than time spent with friends, as we tend to go out every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night and stay out until last call. There would be big differences in those in terms of how they could impact academics. So there'd be a lot of interesting qualitative distinctions we could make there. So those are your options and kind of my explanations. Again, I'll open up the vote. I'm going to put this in right now, so by the time you're watching, this vote should be open. I'll leave it open till Wednesday at midnight, and then Thursday morning I'll open group sign up, and please be signed up by Sunday at midnight. As I had said in our course intro video and in the syllabus, if you do not sign up for a group by the deadline, I withdraw you from the class, because if you don't even have time to log on and sign up for a group, you don't have time to do a research study. So that's kind of the the moment of truth, is make sure you get signed up for your group. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, if you have any clarification, or if you want me to engage the department to see if they would allow us to do the ICE study, let me know, send me an email, and we will absolutely chat about that. And I will talk to all of you all soon. If you are not in Arizona and you're in a snowy area, stay warm and safe.